What's happening, guys? It's DK Priori. I am back and I have in this video put together a build that I used throughout a let's play that I will be uploading soon. However, I'm going to upload this video first to give you guys a bit of content. So this is a druid build in the Dark Souls 3 Convergence mod, which is fantastic. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. Going into the basic details, I started as a deranged hermit class, which is a druid hybrid in the Convergence mod. It gives you this offensive ability where you can cover yourself in thorns and do like magic damage on roll, which is pretty potent. However, the main focus became casting the real nuclear druid spells which are available, and so I went down that road, even though I still have a pretty formidable offensive melee weapon as well. We are at level 152. That's completely unnecessary. As I was going through the Let's Play and recording, I had so many souls to spare, I just dumped them into stats just to see what they would do. However, as I said, it's completely unnecessary. So, starting with 40 vigor for a nice amount of health. We've got 30 attunement for 5 attunement slots, 30 endurance so we can swing our weapon around if we need to. Vit, strength and dex are all at base, as is luck as well, luck's at base. And int and faith I level to 50. We're getting an extra point in dex, int and faith from one of the items I'm using as part of my fashion, but that's completely for fashion. I'm not bothered about the extra effects, and I only leveled int and faith to 50 to see if the hard caps had changed in the mod, and they haven't. So you will be perfectly viable with this build at 40-40, and plus there are no druid spells that require you to go higher than 40 as an attribute requirement, to my knowledge anyway. I'm pretty sure you'll have access to all the high tier stuff for a druid build with 40-40 in faith. So that's the stats out of the way. So taking a look over at the equipment, our main weapon is the living crystal bardiche, this big nasty looking thing here. It's like a halberd with crystals on it. It is at +10. It's all magic damage. Anything druid related is going to be all magic damage. So we get 255 base plus 470 scaling from that BB scaling in int and faith. That gives us 1285 attack power. The moveset's pretty standard as far as halberds go, but it does have the split leaf greatsword weapon art. Ooh, didn't mean to do that. So you wind it up just like the split leaf, and you do a devastating attack. So that's really nice, but it's so hard to get off. We've got a torch and a parry shield if we want to parry anybody. You know, that's going to be our option. The small leather shield and a torch just to illuminate some of the darker areas in the mod. We're also rocking the living flame. Now, according to the item description, this is a flame of living essence directly connecting the caster with the power of life, extremely effective at casting druid magic. So I thought this was going to be the be all and end all, like the real high tier talisman for druid stuff. However, there are some other options. Bear in mind the stats on this though. Spell buff of 206, and at +10 you get a CC scaling in int and faith. The talisman that you start the game with as this class is the Verdant Bow. Fully upgraded, that only gives you a 191 spell buff and DD scaling, so that quickly fell by the wayside. I ended up during the Let's Play replacing it for the majority of my playthrough with the Bramblehorn. The Bramblehorn statistically is exactly the same as the Living Flame. It's got a 206 spell buff and it has CC scaling in int and faith. The only difference with this is it does Thorn Bloom as its skill, which covers you in thorns and allows you to roll into enemies and do magic damage, similar to Kirk's armor. There's also the Essence Bloom. Again, it's exactly the same statistically as the other two that I've just mentioned. The Living Flame and the Bramblethorn. Bramblethorn, is it? Bramblethorn. So it's got a spell buff of 206 and in phase scaling of CC. This, however, gives you a Life Essence skill, which is a regen effect for a minute. So if you were interested in that, I'd go with the Essence Bloom. If you wanted the Thorn Bloom, I'd go with the Bramblethorn. And if you wanted just straight fashion, to have a big glowing green hand and sort of a Druid combustion, I would go with the Living Flame. Going into our fashion, I've got the Legionnaire's Blindfold. This is all fashion, by the way. There are some auxiliary effects that all armor sets grant you in this mod. I was not bothered about the auxiliary effects with this. I didn't need the extra in Faith and Dex. I'm just wearing it because it looks pretty cool. The Garb of the Conclave is an interesting one though. Didn't mean to take that off. It reduces the FP consumption of all your Druid stuff by 10% and increases your magic damage by 4%. Now, if I wanted to totally max out magic damage, then I would rock a full Conclave set because each piece gives you an additional bit of magic damage. But I just went with fashion. I didn't really feel the need to just stack up like that. So Garb of the Conclave is what I'm wearing on my upper body. I've got the Hermit's Wrap, which you start the game with as this build, as this class, just like some thorny gloves. And to go with that, I picked out the Living Crystal leggings, which again, they do magic damage on roll. Now the interesting thing is, if you are a more close quarters, sort of combat heavy, well, melee heavy Druid, you might want to consider the Living Crystal leggings, because as you're dodging and rolling, you're going to be giving off that magic damage, and it does actually stack really nicely, and you can get some decent chunks of damage in, even to bosses, with the rolling magic damage that you get from that set. So that's something to consider. If you were going more castery, then you're going to want the Conclave set, and if, like me, you're just interested in the fashion, then I think this looks pretty good. Going into the rings, we've of course got the Young Dragon Ring, which you start the game with as this class. That gives you magic damage increase of 5%. We've got the Bellowing Dragon Crest Ring, giving us an extra 15% to our magic damage. The Crystalline Loot gives us an extra 10% to our magic damage. And the Shell of Cathbad gives us an extra 10% to our magic damage, 75 magic damage on roll, and that further cost consumption as well. Now, shells are something you get by defeating greater foes in this mod, and greater foes are essentially enemies that are like buffed versions of regular enemies. Once you defeat one of those, you'll get a soul of a greater foe, and you can take it over here to, I'll just show you real quick, take it over to Ludoleth, who's over here now, transpose it, and you can get all of these shells. You can only wear one at a time, but yeah, something to consider for you right there. Now, the Convergence mod adds a training dummy, and we are going to make use of this training dummy to check out some of the spells that we've got. So Virulent Strike was by far my bread and butter. This is what I used to cheese my way through most of the game. It does massive amounts of damage up front, and it has this health drain effect that ticks for a few seconds afterwards. That also stacks. So if you keep casting, the health drain effect just keeps ticking on. So you can get absurd levels of damage out of that spell if you just keep firing it off. We've got Living Flame Arc. That's our buff. That's going to take our AR from 1285, I think it was earlier, to 1617. Again, our weapon hits hard anyway. We don't really need the buff. I save that for bosses. But it's pretty potent. So yeah, there's that. Essence Storm is our crowd control. This is what you're going to use if you're in a tight spot, there's enemies all around. I used it in the thumbnail for this video to just show it off because it looks cool. It basically fires up a load of crystals from the floor that hit loads of enemies. If the enemies are weak enough, they'll get yeeted up into the air, and that'll give you time to retreat. But if it actually hits, because the hitbox is quite janky and it's not good for a single enemy like this, but if you can actually get it to hit, you see that does loads of damage, and the health drain effect ticks for a while as well, like for a good while, significantly longer than the virulent strike. We've also got life force. This is a chunky heal, just there if you're trying to conserve Estus or whatever. And finally we've got this bad boy. This is Ghru. Ghru is my friend, and Ghru will do things like that. Now imagine, picture the scene, you're in a boss battle, and Ghru is just nutting up, running to the boss, doing this stuff, and you're standing back, just firing off shots like that. You're going to get mad damage real quick, and against some bosses it works exceptionally well. The Abyss Watchers, for example, they don't stand a chance against Ghru. Other bosses will wipe out Ghru pretty quickly, so you just want to be careful about that. Yeah, don't rely on Ghru too much. Just know that he's there to provide some vital assistance during boss battles, and it can make things go a whole hell of a lot easier. So with that stuff out of the way, and with all that said, I'm going to go and take on some bosses. So I'm going to do 2 bosses with this build to show you what it's really capable of. One of the bosses is going to pack a real punch. We're going to take him out in 20 seconds or so. He's going to melt. The second boss is going to be Darkeater Midir, because I thought I may as well pick something that is more traditionally challenging. Midir is obviously one of the hardest bosses in this game, so we're going to go in, we're going to see what Ghru can do against Midir, and then I'm going to take the rest of the fight from there. So I will see you shortly with those boss battles. So we're here at the Kindled Coliseum bonfire. This is us in the starter area of the mod, and this is where you'll fight the first boss of the game. It's no longer Udex Gunda, it's Watchdog of Firelink, and after you've defeated him, all these sort of graves will pop up, and what you can do is, as you defeat a boss, the grave will light up and you can resurrect a boss and refight it, get the soul item again. So there's no need to go to New Game Plus to get the souls you need. If you, for example, I wanted to try both spells available to me from Archdruid Kaimar, who's the new druid boss. So I beat him 3 times to get his soul 3 times, and then, yeah, just resurrected him. So it's a really nice way to farm, and it's a really nice way to get soul items without needing to go through New Game Plus cycles. Anyway, we're gonna start by showing what this build can do to a pretty standard boss. So Old Demon King has never been the most powerful of bosses, and his health pool isn't particularly large, but it's large enough to demonstrate this. So we're going to call Ghru out. Gru's going to tank the boss. And you'll see Ghru is great not only for tanking, but staggering. And there we go, Old Demon King, he's down already. So in that instance, Ghru absolutely shredded the old Demon King. We barely had to do anything. And for bosses like that, what Ghru's going to do is he is going to not only tank them and provide an extra target so the boss doesn't focus on you, but he is also going to be able to stagger them, because Ghru hits pretty hard and bosses like that are susceptible to being staggered by Ghru. But that wasn't really a very good demonstration. Obviously we were able to melt that boss because we're really over leveled for him. So let's go and take on a more challenging boss, and we'll see what this build can really do and how it can adapt to different situations in different phases of a boss battle. So if you don't recognize this, we've come to give Darkeater Midir a little go, and this will be a really good demonstration of how this build can work. So we drop down. First I'm going to buff up. Going to get Ghru involved. Ghru's going to get wiped out pretty quickly, to be honest. That extra target, we got some casts away. Just tried to get a heal off there. Ghru's down. This is down to us now. Oh wow. It's gonna eat me. Try and get some casts away. This Virulent Strike, as with all offensive Druid conjurations, has a health drain effect. It'll tick down for a while. You can see Midir's health was ticking down there. Only incrementally, but it's enough. Gives us that extra bit of damage. He's playing caster, we're going to play caster too. Now he's going into his second phase. Probably investigate your distance as much as possible here. Just keep casting. He's going to cast too. Ouch. He hurts. Still hurts. But we've got that option to deal with him from range, which is really nice. Obviously he's weak to magic too, so we're getting respectable damage in on him. He's going to fire some humanities at us. Just going to dodge through those. Keep his health ticking down with our ranged offensive conjurations. Let him come to us. Obviously, he's still Midir, he's still going to catch you out. It's never going to be an easy fight. But when we can, just get hits in on the head. ticker down again. Top on off. That's Darkeater Midir down. So yeah, as you can see, this build offers a really nice amount of utility. It makes that fight a whole hell of a lot easier than just going in melee. At the start, during his first phase, we can summon up Ghru. Gru's going to be that extra target, tank some damage while we get some hits in with the Bardiche, and then during his second phase, when he's going to start getting antsy and launching off all kinds of spells, we can hit him with virulent strikes, which are going to do magic damage up front and then continue to drain his health. And you know, if you're feeling flashy, you can get up underneath him and pump out an Essence Storm. Entirely up to you. But yeah, this build, the Druid hybrid, has such great utility. Really nice casting, really powerful casting, and also excellent with the Bardiche for melee strategies too. So that about covers everything I need to cover with the Druid build. It's not strictly speaking a full Druid build because we're not going full casting, but it makes use of the Druid tools that are available, has high magic damage, and also allows us to summon a tank for trickier situations like boss fights. We've got a nice projectile, nice buff, crowd control, assistance, and a good heal if you're running low on Estus. So that about covers it. I've been DK Priori, and I'll see you again soon.